also in these slides you're sharing.
Okay, thank you everyone for joining the meeting. This is the second Manila Collab Review meeting in Wallaby release. We already had one session last week where Gotham presented us uh, uh, how Manila will now handle secure back policies, and we had that presentation. Uh, we also have the recording. The recording is available on Manila channel, so if you want to take a look on this session, it's available there. In this session, we are going to talk about a new feature proposal that Carlos, Andrea, and I have been working in the past months. And this feature is called Security Service Updates for in-use shared networks. And we start talking about a little bit the feature, then we're going to talk about the solution that we are proposing, uh, and we also intend to dive into the code and do a review on that and raise some questionings and so on. We also have an etherpad that was shared in the mailing list. If you guys want to place any notes or questions, it's a good place to add it, so people can also later uh, take a look and also have the links for the everything that we are going to show here. I will also add the link to the presentation that we have here. It's just 5 slides, but I will put in the etherpad too. Okay, so you guys are seeing the screen, right?
Yep.
Okay, okay, let's start. First thing, uh, in Manila Security Service, an, it's a resource that holds information about director systems, authentication servers, and these information can be used by storage systems to configure clients that will help to authenticate users that wants to have access to some shares. So this is a tool that can help the storage system to identify users, authenticate them, and so on. Uh, this security service entity that lives in Manila is associated with the share network. So uh, this means that uh, it is expected that this security service can be also reachable in the same share network that will have a subnet endpoint inside the share server. So there's this connection between security service that must be reachable and the share network that uh, holds the subnet information that we are going to use when building share service. Uh, and then the problems that we have today in Manila and with security service is that for share servers, share networks that are in use, which means that we already have share servers consuming network address of the share network. They can't be updated. Just mean that we can't change any parameter of the security service after we start actually using the share network, creating share servers and shares in this share network. But uh, the issue that we have is that without this update, some parameters won't be updated. So some of them we can think that might might change after a while. Like passwords can be updated, DNS address can change or can be added or removed. So these kind of updates we today we are not able uh, to reconfigure in storage systems, and this is the main issue that this feature proposes trying to solve. Uh, Also, another problem that we can see in the same line is that share servers that are already in use by users with their shares, we are not also not able to include new security service configuration. For example, if we already have a share server that's serving NFS shares, and we want to add a Kerberos authentication system to the share server, today is not possible. And in order to do that, the user will need to create the security service and create a new share network and create shares in this new share network. So this is another scenario that uh, is in the inside uh, the same scope, and we are addressing these within the same changes. So just uh, to remember, we can do an update on security service when they are already being used, but today we only can update the name and the description since it not affects anything in the backend itself. So with this new proposal, uh, we plan to add an update feature that will uh, add the possibility of updating any parameter or add an entire new security service for these networks. So the solution is that we now will be able to ShareNets will be able to support security service update. So both operations that will be supported with this change is to associate a new security service to a share network and to update an existing association. So we can, the idea is to update a security service with another one that has the same type. So uh, we will see the new REST API that we are not going to update the security service resource, but we are going to update the share network association. With that, uh, we are uh, changing the granularity of the operation. So this will affect all share servers from a single share network since it's operation per share network and not an operation that we will can affect all share networks. So this is something that the user will need to trigger for every share network that he wants to update the security service information. In this update process, all share servers associated with this share network will also be updated. This means that the Manila will call the backend driver to inform that the security service will be updated, and the driver that supports it, we will need to implement these new driver interfaces and provide a backend capability that uh, tells him the Manila that it supports such operation. So together with that, we are adding a new capabilities that we are calling security service update support. And this capability will be available at the backend. So the backend driver implements the interface and support this functionality, and he will provide this capability also that can be used by the scheduler to filter compatible backends. This capability will be also stored in the share servers. So when updating the share network, we need to identify that all share servers that are associated to a share network, they support this feature. So if we have a single share server that does not support it, we will deny the operation. And since share servers are resources that the users can't see, we decided also to add this capability to the share network. So at the share network level, this is a property that will also represent if all share servers support the feature, or if at least one does not support. So the user, when he's you get the details of a share network, he will be able to identify if that share network can support at that moment uh, security service update. So the idea is that these capabilities that you live on these three uh, resources. And since this operation is an operation on share networks, this is the first time that we are changing a share network after is in use. And for doing that, we are going to add a new status attribute to the share network. So the share network will now have at least three states that will present the current status of the share network. So the share network can be active, can be uh, in modification, or can be in an error state. So we are adding this state to help us to control uh, the resource update in the same way that share servers has also a status attribute. And with that, we can block any operations that requires share network resource. We will block this operation by checking share network status. In this feature, we are adding two new REST interface APIs, and one of them is for update the security service for a share network. So today we have the add and the remove operation, and now we are including an operation to update the security service for a share network. So in in this scenario, we are expecting that a share network that has a current security service will be updated to a new security service, and these and both security service must be of the same type. So we will validate this in the API, and the idea behind that is that uh, other share networks can still have the same association with the current security service, and the user will need to update uh, each of these share networks in order to have the all security service updated, and after that he will be able to delete the old security service if the user wants to. And since we are adding a status attribute to the share network, we are also adding um, a reset state operation for share network. So the idea is that an admin will be able to reset the status of a share network just in case uh, it end up uh, uh, stuck in a specific status, like being stuck in a modified status, for example. So we have the same thing for other resource. It's an API that helps admin uh, uh, to fix unexpected scenarios, and this is a new one. Any questions so far?
Nope.
And I'm actually taking them down in the Etherpad, but nothing pressing at the moment.
Okay. So I also have a sequence diagram. The idea of these diagrams that we can see how the flow of a security service update is happening in the code. And with that, I think that we'll be in a better place to start looking at the code and raise the questions and try to understand what we are actually doing in the code. Okay, so the this flow will work both for security service updates and for adding new security service for in-use share networks. So will be the same flow. They are calling almost all the same functions inside the code. The difference is that uh, the update expects a current and a new security service, and the operation to add, yeah, it only expects a new security service. So the drivers will receive in the end a call with these two entities, and uh, it's you when when he the driver receives both security service. This means that it's an update and are both of the same type. Okay, so starting starting at the client. So the request for security service must have the current security service and the new one. And in the API, we have some some initial checks. These checks are the API microversion itself to see if it's the current microversion that supports this new feature. We also check if there are at least one share server that is using the share network. If we don't have any, this means that the share network is not really in use. We can update the security service inside the API, updated database associations, and return back to the user. But in this case, we are considering that in the API, we found that there are some share servers that are in use and they are associated with the share network. And also all these share servers support the update security service feature. So they have the flag, the capability set to true, and this will trigger the next step of the operation, that is to call the share API to continue process this operation. In the share API itself, we have more validations. We have validations like we will get all the share servers that are associated. We will get all the share instances that are associated with this share network. We will check all the states. We will check access rule states. We will check share server status. Um, what else? We are going to check if all hosts that are associated to the share server, they are up and running. And all these checks are made in the initial checks. So after passing everything that we have here, we will have the share API calling the first RPC. So at this moment, we decided during the implementation, we decided to add a new RPC that we call check update security service. The idea of this call is uh, to first uh, check with the backend driver to see if it will support that specific update, because at the API level, we are considering that all parameters of a security service can be updated, but maybe the backend driver can block uh, a specific parameters of being updated, like the user wants to update the Kerberos realm with this security service update, and some drivers may want to block these operations since they need to uh, ingress in a different KDC, and these may be disruptive for for the server itself, and can be a decision of the driver to not update this specific parameter, but he can support to update a password, for example. So this is the opportunity of the driver to deny or to accept the update. By doing this, we'll avoid uh, getting all share servers to an error state. So the share server may end up in an error state if an invalid update reached the driver. So this check, um, it's a synchronous call that we are doing. So the shard API will call all backend hosts that have one or more share servers associated, and then the backend host will ask the driver to see if the current update is supported. Um, with that, if we have a positive answer from the backend drivers and all all share servers can be updated, the share API can continue to process the update operation. So in that moment, we will start to update research status. At this moment, the share network will go to uh, a state that is called network change. So this share network is under modification, and also all associated share servers will have their state updated to network change too. So from this moment, all resources have their status change, which will block further operations, and the share API will start to call the an asynchronous call to the backend host and backend drivers to update this information. So we have here for every host, we have a RPC call, an asynchronous RPC call that will trigger this operation in the backend host. After that, we are considering that the update has been made. This means that we are going to update the database association. So what can happen here is that one of the shard servers may fail to update, but all others successfully update this information. This means that that shard server will be in a error state, while others successfully update. Since this is a operation that we are going to trigger in different backend hosts for different backends, it's really complicated to roll back. So we decide that after this moment, it's considered that the share network itself was updated to a new secured service, but uh, we may find one or another share server in error state, and this because this update failed at some backend. So with this DB update, we can return to the user uh, uh, that an update was made. And what will happen when the update call reach the backend host is that he will call the driver itself to do the update. So for each search server, the driver will be called to update this specific security service. Share manager will provide all network info, will provide security service, the current and the new informations, and also uh, will provide, if needed, share instance and also access rules information, just in case the backend driver uh, need to use this information to update something at the storage system. We will see in the code that the driver can answer uh, a dictionary with some updates. These updates are associated with access rules. So at some point, the driver can return a list of access rules that failed to be updated, for example, or were affected by the security service update. So at this moment, the driver itself can answer with uh, access rules updates, and this is what we uh, documented in the driver interface, and we can see later in the code. The last check here is made in every backend host. The idea of this check update finish is that at this moment we still have the share network with the network change status, and uh, at some point the share network uh, must back to the active state. So while these updates are happening, we still block any operation to happen, and the share network uh, will continue to be in network change. So this last check is just to see if after finishing all the work here in this backend host, uh, this host will check if all other share servers also finish their updates. They can be in an active or error state, but they cannot be in a network change state. So the last one that will check that will verify that okay, all share servers were updated. So I am the last one, and I am going to revert share network status. This will uh, release share network to be used by other operations. At the end, we can have all share servers active again, or we can have some of them in an error state. And after that, for share servers error, it's up to the admin to check um, the current security server problem and manually fix and update the share server status just in case of errors. So this is will be the flow that we can follow in the change. Um, are you guys want to
Yeah,
raise any
let's
question?
yes, let's go over some of the questions. I'm sure you'll answer some of them, saying let's go through that in the code. Um, but while you were talking, I was jotting down some things that just came to my mind without looking at the code. But knowing what the spec had, for instance. So your wish. You want to take it from the top, or
Okay, we can start looking at the code and see if some of these questions are answered, and we can
okay?
go back after that here.
Yeah.
This is a good one. I was thinking about this one. Um, okay, let's start with the code. If we have some time, I can show this working with the dummy driver. I had some I slip code to help us to see the state changes with the dummy driver. So after that, if we have some time, we can go to the code also, to the demo. Okay, I, I have a sequence here of the code that we can follow. I will start with the simple one, the new states. So share server has a new state that's called network change. Um, the idea behind network change is that we can also have in the future another operations that also change uh, network configuration, like adding a new share network subnet to a search server that's already created. So we will be able to reuse this state. So that's why it's not a specific state for security service. And for share network, we now have three new status: active, error, and network change. And we are going to see these states in the middle of the code. Next one, I think that we can start with database changes. So model and API migration. Uh, we have been adding um, more properties here. So uh, all affect almost all affected resources have a new property that provides the share network status. Since we added this status to the share network, uh, we also added this property to easily reach that information inside Manila. So for share instance, we have the share network status. The share network itself now has a status attribute. So uh, he can be in any of these three new states, and the default when a share network is created, it will be an active state. Um, there is also a new backref here. This one I think we can talk about later. Carlos did that to help us on checking, probably help us to checking on the when dealing with share groups if we need to check the current share network status. And this is how we are going to reach that information other parts of the code. Now, share network share network new property that security service update support. And here we have the share network searching for all share servers that are associated with subnets of this share network. And by getting this capability from all share servers, uh, we end up returning to the user if this share network will support at this moment uh, share servers update. So the property in the share network depends on all share servers that are associated with this share network at this moment. And this is how the user will be able to see if he can update the security service or not. For the share server, the security service update support. So it starts with the false as a false, and this is something that we will see in the migration that by doing database migration, we will also set every share server that's already created in the database. We will set also to default false. And at the moment that a new share server is created, this information will be provided by the driver itself. It will be uh, a capability of the driver. But for all other share servers that are already created, um, this feature will start with false. And later we can see that there's a specific Manila managed command that will help us uh, to to deal with the share servers that are already created. Share server also has a property for share network status, and this next one is also for share group. So share group uh, also holds information about share network status, since this is important in order to block or to allow operations to happen in this specific resource. From the database API, we have a new DB API to retrieve the association between share network and security service. So this helps us a lot in some part of the codes. So we are just searching for uh, if there is any association between those two share network and security service. And finally, we have the update security service operation. So basically, we do search for an old association, and if this association exists, we do a delete, and after that, we update with the new association. So this is the how the update works in the database. We just update the association between those two resources. Just a detail with share server get with filters. This is a share servers update. This is a operation to update list of share servers, and we are using that only to update the status of a list of share servers. So we did that in share server migration, but we did that for share instance. So instead of doing a lot of calls to the database, we provide this new interface to update an entire list of share servers, and we are basically using that to update in the share API to update the status. Database migration. So share server column will have share server will have a new column for security service update. Uh, Everything will start with false. All share networks will also have a status, and this status will be set to active as default, since all share networks that are already in the database, they don't have any status, and it is expected that all of them are active, since today we don't have any operation that modify it uh, to have a different state from active. So this is the default that the database will have. And I think that's it. We have the downgrade that we just dropped these two uh, these two new columns, and this affects share servers and share networks. Hmm, a good one will be the view. Let's go to the view here. Here also simple changes. So for the new macro version, we are updating the in this case the share network view to include the status and the security service update support. And from share server, we are updating only the security service update support. So yeah, this is information that an admin can see in this resource. We are providing in this new macro version. From the start with let me start with the share network API. Okay, so now share network has a new status attribute that is one of those three that we added to the code. And the two operations that we are changing here is actually the operation that exists, that is to add a security service to a share network. So we have this new logic. Uh, First thing is to collect the information if this share network uh, is associated with an active share server. So we have a list of share servers associated to this share network, and also we have different uh, return messages to the user depending on the API version that they are using. So, for example, if they are on this new micro version or newer, they will receive an information that the share network cannot may not be in the active state. So this will happen only when the share network itself is not in an active state. So we start checking that here, and we have a lot of other APIs that also check if this share network is an inactive state before proceeding with the flow. Okay, so if this share network contains share server and uh, these these specific share network does not support adding uh, because the macro version does not match. It's lower than this one. So if it contains the share server, but the user is working on a older version, older macro version, we are raising an error here. And also after that, we are going to check the security service update support. So if one of the share servers do not support uh, security service update, this share network also will not support it, and we are going to fail here for that and provide an explanation to the user. Um, After that, we proceed to the shared API update security service. So this is the validations that we are doing here in the PI. This for adding a new security service for in-use share network. So there is a new logic here. Uh, and the new one is the update security service. So this operation is a new operation on this new micro version. And in order to do that, uh, same thing, we are going to check if the share network has um, share servers associated, if the share network is active, and we are going to retrieve both security service. So in the update, we expected the user provide both current and the new security service. Um, if the share network is not being used, we will handle the updates here. So we have remove security service association and add a new association considering the current and the new security service. So we are going to update here in the API and answer back to the user that uh, this association was updated. In case of the share network has share servers, here we validated that they have the same type. Uh, we validate that this association really exists because here we are just checking that the security service is existing in the database, but here we just checking if this association between share network and security server exists. And finally, we also call the share API to update the security service. It's the same call that we are using here. The difference that we are providing uh, the current security service here. So when we go to the share API, we will see a single method that will retrieve both scenarios. And finally, the reset status that will help us to reset the state of the share network. So this is a common function call that our other resource uses. So also for this microversion, we have the reset status.
The only comment I would have over here is there's a lot of logic to go into uh,
3 API level.
this yeah into these files, which we tend to actually keep to normal, very simple. Look at the request body and don't or maybe make a database check and respond out of there, kind of thing, right? Like we take all of these complicated checks into the share API. So
Mhm.
if that's something that we can do over here, it would be good, I think,
Yeah,
just to keep this file simpler and easier to read. Uh, anyway,
yeah,
the complicated stuff is always there in the share API layer anyway.
yeah, agree with you.
Yeah, makes sense.
Makes sense.
Thanks.
Okay, all other API changes related to checking network status, share network status. So um, im- this is important during the review that you folks can help us is to check if we are missing any operation that should also check the share network status, and we are not checking that. So the idea is that uh, operations that require uh, share network and may be affected by this update because the share server itself is being updated. We will block this operation to happen until the share network goes to active again. Um, so this is basically checking the status of the share network. So one example is allowing an access to a share. We are going to, since we are at this moment, we are updating security service configuration in the share server, and this is something that we should block for happening until all share servers have their uh, uh, security service updated. Same for deny, and this one was probably the create. Yes, the create. Same thing for share replicas. Uh, Now it's for share servers. Same thing. Unmanage, validating manage parameters while managing share servers, and the migration operation, and finally the check operation also. Um, we have here one for share snapshot. And this one is for managing, right?
Uh,
Do you remember?
there's one for allowing access and other for denying access, and
Yeah,
I would say there is one for managing as well.
yeah, for mountable snapshots in this case, right?
Yeah,
Awesome.
exactly.
Thanks, Carlos.
Welcome.
For shares, shares V2, we have migration start, and I think that's only migration start.
The only way to tell if you're breaking any API is to make sure you have these negative tests in as unit tests or something, or in Manila Tempest plugin, right? With every action that involves DHSs through resources, make sure you have something that has. Uh, I'm not sure you probably already covered that.
Yeah, that was a preoccupation of ours because we didn't want to break anything that was currently there. So we've tried to cover all of these scenarios with unit tests. Uh,
Mhm.
I would say there are still a few points to be covered in the share networks API, but in an overall, the older API like shares, share servers, and all of their stuff that we needed to touch, we managed to cover with unit tests properly.
Awesome.
But it's always good to double check the coverage. I can personally take a look on that as well. Uh,
Yes, please, Carlos, take that as a note, and we can check that later.
Yeah, I'm thinking if there's another way, maybe somehow preventing a resource from getting created um, from the database side when a shared network's not active. But again, I think we'll run into some sort of I mean, it's there's a possibility if we send it down to that database layer, we could run into race conditions that are harder to handle. Mm.
Yeah,
But good. I think
yeah.
yeah,
I can think
we'll
about
cover
it.
it through review and also
Okay, if you during the review, if you have something in mind about that, uh, please add a comment, and we can check how to do that. But it should be a
sure.
good idea. Now let's see the policy. So we have the policies here for share networks. So considering this model, we are adding the update security service as a default rule. So uh, a member can also update its security service, can create, add, and remove, and he can update uh, association. But the reset status, in the same way with all other reset status for shares, shared servers, and so on, they are only available for admins. And these are the two policies that we are including here for these two new APIs.
Good point. And specifically, I wanted to check about this because there's other things that are changing here. Um, this need not be different from the others. You're actually going to hit this boundary where we're going to deprecate all of these older policies that are there in this file, as well as everywhere else, right? So the way you should probably handle this is to introduce this policy as deprecated, because it's a brand new policy. Yes, it's kind of weird that we're introducing it as deprecated, but the point being that it has to be consistent with the other policies that are already there. So if somebody chooses not to use system scope policies in the Wallaby release, they can, except this new policy can't have system scope defaults. So it also has to behave like the others.
Mhm.
So I would think you should be looking at the existing policy changes,
Yep.
which I think we merged, right? No, I don't think we did for security services.
This is
So,
for share networks, but
oh, this is
I
for share
don't think
networks.
that
Okay.
we merge share networks at this moment too.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That one's still pending testing. So, if you look at the share network exchange, you'll see that I think it is system admin or project member
Hmm.
by default.
Yeah.
And then the deprecated default is whatever it is that you want, which is
Yes.
rule default, which means that project admin or owner, or the rule admin API, which means somebody that has the role admin API admin. So it would be a system admin or project admin in case of the admin API thing, and system admin or project member in case of anything that's the default rule. So we can do that as the defaults and also do this deprecated rule. I know it's funny, but that's the only way. That's the way I've seen is how the other projects are handling it as well.
Yeah.
So we'll be consistent at least.
Sure. Yeah. Yes, we are considering to rebase that this code on top of the changes that we are providing about security RBAC,
Yeah,
and we can also provide the update on this one. I agree with the deprecation part. We still need to include that.
makes sense. Thanks.
Okay. Let's go to the share API.
Quick question. So when a security service gets updated from a given share network, there is nothing that you are doing. You're probably disassociating the previous association, deleting this association table entry, and so the security service is no longer bound to a share network. But a user has to still go ahead and delete that security service manually, right?
Yes.
Okay.
When he finished to update all share networks that has this association,
Okay.
supposing that they have more than one, at the end he can
Yeah,
delete
if
the
right,
old
if you
one.
have that older security service still that's being used with other networks, you're still going to keep it around.
Looks like more like a security service migration per share network.
Yeah, makes sense.
That's was the idea.
But so you're not doing any no deletion, just
No.
expecting the user to take that action. Okay, so that's something you'll probably have to document.
Yeah.
Makes sense. Thanks.
Okay, so in the share API, we have a single method that will hold both adding new security services and updating the current one. So they have a common code, and like in the sequence diagram, uh, we start doing some initial checks. So by going to the initial checks, first thing we have to, we are checking the status here again. So it's something that after bringing things from the API to the shared API, something that we maybe remove the duplicated check. We are getting all the share service associated with this share network, and we are building a list with all share servers, and this list will be used later in the code. For all backend hosts associated with these share servers, we are going to validate if the host is up and running. We are also checking the share server status here to see if it's in active state. For all shares that are associated with this share network, we are also checking if the status are okay, so if they are available. And also we are checking if the access rule status are still an active state. Um, Still regarding the share, we would check, and also this is a check that the code already has. This is to check if the share is busy, and then though basically another state check for this one. Um, at the end, we are returning the list of share servers and the backend hosts that we're going to use to in the RPC calls. So if during the review, if you guys think that we are missing uh, any details here, or in the case of the API, we're duplicating validations, we think that we can bring those checks to, if possible, we can bring almost off then to this part of the code. Um, Basically, it's here's just state checking and host validation with those shared servers and backend hosts. We are going to do the first call. That's to check if all backend drivers support this update. So for this, we are going to call an RPC that's called check updated share network security service. So the idea is to check if this update is supported and if at least one of these hosts, so we are calling this RPC for every different host, one of these hosts does not support this update, we are going to raise an error that this share network does not support this application, since at least one of the share servers does not also support that. At this moment, we cannot provide to user or uh, a specific detail here, something that we can think about during the review, maybe if we can provide a better explanation to the user about a specific parameter or something like that. But at this moment, the driver is only return true or false, support or not support. So this synchronous call will give us uh, the idea if it's more safe to do the update before starting change the status of our resource. So in this moment, we start updating the share network status to network change. So this single network will have this status change, and also all share servers in the list will have the status change to network change. So by changing this status in share server will help us also to in case of a new share uh, creation is requested, and the share manager methods to select and reuse share servers will will not select this one since he's in the middle of an update, and will help us avoid these conflicts in the backend driver.
So we should probably pause here because this is a I mean, I see why you're doing this, but I was wondering if you considered other alternatives than making this synchronous update between lines 2729 and this thing. Yeah, the ones that you highlight. What I mean, I guess we should probably brainstorm if
Yeah.
what is it that we could do besides this, and there are reasons from you know that I can tell you right off, right? Technically, when you're making a synchronous call, the RPC timeouts are tuned, and that's set something that's usually set globally. It's not set per service, um, and I don't even know if there it is set, within the services themselves, or does it get set on the RabbitMQ side? But a call times out after about 60 seconds, I think, by default. And in this case, we're potentially making a call. I mean, we're potentially making a call to when you say more than one, it could be even 20 or 30 or 50, right? So technically, you'll be blocking on those many hosts responding to that call. And in the simplest case, it'd probably be one. There's probably, somebody that's just using one share server. But even in a slightly more complicated case, like exactly what you folks are doing with, moving snapshots across backends, etc. You know that a share server is now going to be, the share network is going to be used by multiple share servers right there. So and possibly in use all the time, right? So you'll at least have these two hosts. So we're talking 120 seconds of timeout time, just in case one of them does not respond fast enough. You're probably spending all of that time waiting in this API.
Mm-hmm.
So did you think of any alternatives, or what was the thought?
Not actually this one. We added this one uh, during the development because uh, uh, we thought that it was important to have these checks since we believe that not all resources can be updated depending on the driver.
Mhm.
And this at the least mitigates all the all the problems that happens later, since if an update is not supported, all share servers go to error state and uh, become a lot of resources turn to error. um, I'm not sure how we could do this in a different way, because we can have
Let's
a mixed backend scenario. So we need to request and ask at least for the drivers to see if they are going to support this operation.
Mhm.
And I could think about it in another way. I'm not sure if we can do this in a asynchronous way. I'm not sure.
We could, I think. In short, you would probably have to poll these backends for an update, and we do stuff like that, right? Like in another sense, it's like uh, your share migration check. That's not exactly synchronous, is it?
Share migration check. Yes, it is, but it's a single
Right, it's a single host.
yeah, single host. It is synchronous because we answer to the user if it supports or not.
Yeah. Well, if you realize that it's not, we would want to build a generic solution, but just talking out loud with an idea that probably just um, could work here is, if you realize that you're talking to multiple hosts
Hmm.
when you're doing the update, you could basically deny the operation and say, first check, sort of a thing. And what is this first check? First, you can introduce another API to just check if this update is possible.
Hmm.
And and that API is asynchronous. You will store the result in the database, and you provide the response to the user. But if the user doesn't care, they can go ahead and initiate the API to go ahead and update the security service anyway.
Hmm.
But this update API is going to look at that response from the database, and if there is no response recorded in the database, it's just going to say still checking, or initiate this check before you move this. Does that make sense? Or
Yeah.
maybe
Yeah.
you can basically say, I mean, an update. This update is being validated with the backends. You can come back and retry the same API, um, and see whether it works at that time. So sort of build in a retry sort of a thing. So we let ourselves get this response asynchronously rather than synchronously. And the deal with synchronicity is, it's a distributed system. Things can go wrong all the time. And I mean, there is a part where you are checking whether the hosts are up and active, but remember that even that has its tolerance, in the sense that the host check is also happening asynchronously. So if a host is enabled and up, you can send a request, but the request can still be going to the ether, because the host could have gone down between the last time it told you that it was enabled and up,
Yeah.
and now, right? And
Yes.
when the request arrives, because there's already a built-in 60-second default tolerance window that's put over there, and that 60 seconds is configured on the scheduler. That's how often hosts check in to the scheduler. And somebody theoretically could have extended that 60 seconds, made it like 120 seconds, or even 15 minutes or something like that, in theory, in their clouds. So we just have stale information that we are already going off of. But I mean, I have no problems with that check. It's just a simple check in the database, rather than, I mean, if you know that a host is down, you don't really need to send the request and stuff. And at best, what is going wrong, you're probably going to respond saying, sorry, the host is down, but this host has actually come up in the last 60 seconds. They just have to retry. So it's not a terrible check. But something like this bothers me, because you're now going to hang on the fact that the hosts have to respond to you.
I don't think so. Uh,
So I mean, the alternatives could be multiple things. One is, yes, a whole new API that does just checking, and then this API makes sure that that check API is called before. And the way you do that is, I mean, if there is something in the database. But if you don't want to introduce a new API, if you want the same API to be used, then we just say, okay, I just got this update request. It's going to do checking right now. You have to redo this update in a bit, and you can see the status if you execute this command, or if you execute this other API call, to see whether you can send your request again. That way we can send off this asynchronous check, record the result in the database, let it take whatever time it takes, but the user knows when the next call will succeed,
yeah.
as long as they're using the same input parameters, because that's the ones that we have checked for.
Yeah. I think I agree. We can brainstorm this internally between us and see
Mhm.
uh, how this is going to work. Probably no. We will need to use a database to hold this information for us,
Yeah.
Yeah,
and we can reach you at some point to see if it's working, or if
Yeah, if yeah, do feel free. I mean,
uh,
it's a really difficult question, and how you want to implement this, because it is really two things that you're doing in one. So it's hard to, like, have the right answer, um, because I mean, one side is an unpredictable side, which is the user's requests. And for example, I mean, one of the other things that concerns me, right, like right now, if we keep this as it is, the updates on lines 2742 through 2752, which is you're updating the share network and the servers, after you finish this check, synchronous check, and if everything is good, like, which is the ideal case scenario, somebody just has one share network that is associated with exactly one share server, and that host is responding right away. It'll tell you yes or no right away. I'm pretty sure that's the way you've built and tested the NetApp driver, um, which is pretty cool. It doesn't take all that 60 seconds. Is probably baked in about a 2 or 3 second delay in it, kind of thing. That is fine. But then when between by the time you're doing this check, somebody could, in theory, create a new share, or add a new access rule, or do something that the backends are not protected any longer for.
Mm-hmm.
And so you finish this long check between 2729 and 2740, and then you update the statuses. It actually probably
Yeah, this can
at that time is a wrong update,
yeah.
right?
Maybe we
Because the network is probably going through something else. There's already another resource that's already been created between the time that you've done that check and this.
makes sense. We can do the updates earlier.
Yeah,
And
that's one way, if in case you want to preserve this check.
if
Although I would
needed, and if needed, we can do the rollback in
roll
the
back here. Yeah,
yeah,
exactly. So prevent people from doing anything right off the
during
bat.
these checks. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes, I see.
yeah, but even with that, I would think you'd really want to bring in that asynchronicity, because again, I mean, calls are terrible. They're terrible. We for the most part wanted to avoid calls from the get go, and I think the only place we can't avoid it is the scheduler stats API. And I mean, and you saw the recent feedback that we had on that. People wanted us to cache that information, rather than making a call each time. Just sure, make the call, but the scheduler is going to respond right away instead of making a call to the host to get that information.
Mm-hmm.
And as we recently saw, that cache information is not getting updated. That's pretty bad. So whenever you build something like this, which has synchronicity baked into it, we tend to run into all sorts of problems. Um,
Okay, there's a good feedback on that,
yeah,
Yeah, for
and
sure.
we can work on this mainly. Okay, thank
yep,
you.
no problem.
So the last call is actually the RPC call to really update the share network security service. So this is a asynchronous call to update every resource for each backend, the same way that we are doing a loop on all hosts here. We are doing here, but this one is an asynchronous one. Okay, the last one, not the last one, but the more important one is the manager, where we have also the logic to update the configuration in the driver. So these two are the two RPCs that we are creating. One only for checking, and the another one to update. So this first one at this moment is expecting to return if its supports are not the operation, while the second one is to really do the update. These two are calling the same part of the code, so we have a private method here that will do both the check and the update. So starting here, we have a parameter that says if we want just to check uh, if the update is supported, or if you are going to update the code, update the security service. Okay, so first thing that we really change here is for each share server. So we are going to do a driver call for each share server. So the driver will have the opportunity to update this security service per share server, and uh, in order to do that, we are retrieving all the network information that the share server receives when we are creating a new share server. So we are providing the same amount of network information, plus information about share instance and share instance rules. So we are providing uh, uh, a list of share instances that are associated to the share server, and also a list of share instance rules for the driver call. This part is the part that we only do the check in the driver. So the driver has two new interface, one for check, yeah, another one for the update. So if the at least one does not support here, we return to this call saying that at least one share server does not support this update. So this is going to happen only when the check only parameter is set to true. Uh, and now uh, before actually updating the share server security service, we are also already updating the backend details. So if at the end the update goes through an error, or if the driver raises any exception, we will still consider that the share server should be updated to the new security service configuration. So if something goes wrong, then the admin needs to guarantee that the configuration that must be set in this share server will be the new configuration, since all other share servers or uh, all other backend hosts already are updating this configuration to the new security service. So at the end, the backend details will always be updated to the new security service information. So we have here a driver call. This one is for updating the security service in the driver. Um, in this call, the driver can answer if uh, can answer with a known answer, or he can answer with a dictionary that will have information about access rules updates. So in the same way that we have um, uh, access rule updates call, we are doing uh, we are giving the driver an option to provide updates for each access rule that it's assigned to any sharing in that share server. Um, so before entering into the error state here, in case of exceptions, let's see what we can do with this update. So basically what the driver can do is to update a dictionary with Exodus rules updates, and we are going to use that uh, to update access rule states or any other parameter of the access rules based on this output. So this is something that we start to provide in this call too. And what we can have here is that the share server will continue to be active here, since we are updating here, and uh, some of the access rules may be in an error state at the end of the update. Now going back to the security service update failure scenario. So um, what we are doing here is first thing is to update the share server to an error state. So any failure in this call will set this status to error. And there is a different uh, there is a different flow when we are dealing with security service updates, because this part of the code will be used not only for updating an existing security service, but it can be used just to add a new security service to the to this share server. So the idea of checking that is that um, if you already have a share server with shares and access rules, but we are trying to add a new security service information and something goes wrong, we are not uh, uh, we are not setting all the existing access rules to an error state, um, different from the scenario that we are updating a configuration that is already configured in the share server. And uh, during this update, something goes wrong and the security service cannot be updated, and we don't know which is the state of this entity in the storage system. So for this specific scenario that we are updating something that goes wrong, uh, we are also moving all access rules to status and to an error status. So uh, I don't I'm not sure what you guys think about this. If this makes sense or no, you always need to set these access rules to error, or or in other scenario we should never set this access rule to an error. But I think that we can have also just remember that the driver itself can provide us uh, uh, an update on the access rules. So if specific access rules this update affect a specific set of access rules, he can still provide an update for that. But just in this case that he raises an exception for a specific error, we are not sure what's going on and how these access rules are working or not, and we are placing these status to all access rules to an error, all that are associated to these share servers.
Yeah, it kind of makes sense. But I mean, the point though is that you can't really update the state of an access rule, can you? I don't think we have an API to do that. In case you fixed something in the back end as an administrator, it's gone into one of these error states. You know, this is why it happened. Um,
This one, and just no, uh, not sure. They don't have a reset status. They only can deny and null again. But
yeah.
I think that is a more this is more to illustrate that something is an error state and not a in an active state. And this
So why don't we instead just set the access rule status on the share
trends
instance?
is another question that I was about to ask.
Because
If
there's no way to fix the access rule states apart from doing some sort of a database update. Um, I mean, we could provide a way to update the state access rule states, just like a reset state operation that we have in for the other resources. But having to do a deny or an add is probably going to be truly disruptive. So when you're doing this security service change, it's possible that the backend the driver can handle it in such a way that it's not affecting anybody that's currently connected to the share,
yeah,
connected to the service, share server, which is going through this whole update. And that way, we're basically saying access rules are fine, the share network paths are fine, so we're able to do IO and all of that while this management path operation is going on. But the moment you set everything to error, and if somebody says the only way to fix it is to now deny each rule and reapply them, that's going to definitely be disruptive to the data path.
Yeah,
So maybe what we can do is one, I mean, as an alternative, definitely set the share instance rule state to error. Um,
this one. Yeah,
and but it does not protect you from adding any more access rules at that point. I think the only thing that will protect you at that point is making sure that the share instance status is set to error. That way, definitely you can't add or remove access rules when the share instance status is set to error, which you're doing, I think, in. Are you doing that? Are
nothing
you
for the
setting the share instance
no,
status?
no. We are not changing anything on the share instance status. Only the share instance rule status.
Okay.
I see.
Yeah, that's going to be the next problem. If you don't change the share instance status, but you've actually the share server is in a error state, right?
Hmm.
Is the share server in an error state at least?
Yes.
Yes, there is. Okay. So share server is in error state. What can I do with the share instance? Can I mean, and by share instance, the share itself, can I create new snapshots? Can I create replicas? Is that being prevented anywhere? Can I add access
Uh,
rules?
mm,
Not they share instance or other stuff are not being like validated, but we have the scenario where the share network status is different from active, so
Hmm.
that should block some operations.
but in this case, what we are not doing at this moment, and it's important to say, is that we are not moving the share network to error state. Uh,
Right.
Oh,
that's why, because it is expected that the share network is still okay. We did an update on it, and the share network
Hmm.
now points to the new secured service,
Yeah.
and a couple of share servers may already being updated. So
Hmm.
at the point of view of the share network and those share servers, they are good. And this specific share server is an error state. But in the way that we are blocking in the API, we are just blocking operations during the modifying operation. But after that, after every backend host finish the update, the it is expected that the share network goes to active again. So
Yeah. Okay. So
the answer is that
so it kind of makes it simpler, right? So if you set the share instance status to error, the share status is separated to error. So
mm,
that prevents you from doing anything further with the share, prevents any users from doing any management parts operations to the share. The share may be active. I mean, for all you know, the data path is well preserved. Um, and people are still continuing to write data and read data, except we're now sure because the share servers in error state, they really can't do anything else. Like they've got to go fix this share server, which has lost its association to a security service. So that way, I guess we give ourselves that extra layer of protection.
mm-hmm,
Um,
yeah,
because there's no point in just setting the share instance access rule status to error, because I know we don't care, like in the sense, even if the rule status is an error, we let you do some stuff, because that's the only way you can get out of the error state. You can do stuff, you can add new rules, delete existing rules, etc.
agree.
But setting the share instance to error will definitely prevent any other um,
Operation.
request from going to the driver.
Yeah, makes sense.
And it's no biggie for a person that's doing this error fixing to go for make sure that the share server is all right, and then send reset state operations to each share that's associated with the share server.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I would hope, like, when we're writing the docs for this, we have some sort of a section where we say, if things go wrong, this is how you fix them. I mean, definitely look at the log. The log on line 5505 should be a log.exception. That way we bubble up whatever exception that the driver gives, we put it in the logs. That way, I don't know, maybe it's as simple as I'm missing this configuration, and the administrator knows what to do with the backend to go fix that configuration and fix the share server in turn and do the update. But the other part of that is, how do they do the security service update if that particular share server has never been updated? It has to be done manually in some way, because now we've removed the association between the security service and the share network.
Uh, Let me think here. How they You're asking how they should update these shared servers that fail to be updated.
Right. Yep.
Yeah.
How do they fix that? Like, how do they get it back into service?
So
Besides, I mean,
this
let's say it's something to do with the backend, they go fix their backend. But now, how do they get the share server in Manila back into service, basically?
so we are always updating the shared server to have the new secured service from the point of
Mm-hmm.
view of the database. The only thing that will happen is that the shared server uh, will be set to an error, but all information on backend details, for example, will also be always updated with the new secured service. So it's expected that the admin can fix that in the backend,
Mm-hmm.
and he needs just to reset the state of that share server
Okay.
from share server point of view. Uh,
Would that make sense then to log that as well, saying, sure, security service update failed, the server might still have an association with the existing security service, and you probably dump the security service ID or something onto the logs so they have an idea of what to do. Um, but it is not being associated with the new security service that you also log. Um, just give them hints to, you know,
how to fix?
do this rollback. Yeah.
Yeah,
Do this fix, sorry, not rollback.
uh, yeah, makes sense. Uh, okay, so
And
at the least this.
some parts of this code, though, is when you do it. Okay, no, that's probably I'll comment on this. There's a lot of if check, if not check sort of logic.
Mhm.
So it's a little confusing to read, but maybe I'll just add comments where it is.
Yeah,
Go
yeah,
ahead. I interrupted
can
you.
no problem. If you think that's something that can be refactored, please just please place a comment. Yep. Mm, okay, so I think that we covered everything here. So the error scenarios and how the driver can provide the updates for specific access rules. So this is a function, and we can go through the access file, but this is something that it's already in the code. We are just uh, calling an interface that was a private method, and now it's a public method, but we are reusing some code there. We can go there in a second. And the last part is to check if all updates regarding this share network they were finished. So this is the part that after after this backend process all changes for all share servers. Um, we what we do is to check uh, with all share servers that we retrieve from the database if there is uh, no share server that are still in network change status. So by doing that, uh, we fix the share network status that was in a network change also, and we change to active. So the idea behind that is that it's a way of getting the last backend that is still updating this information, and this last one will be responsible to update the share network status. So one question is how will we avoid the race conditions here, right? Since
Yep.
we probably have we will have different backends doing the same thing,
Yeah, exactly.
right? So yeah, I was thinking about that in the last days. Do you think that a
It's
simple lock,
easy. We have
yeah,
two clocks.
yeah,
Use them.
a simple lock
Um,
will solve that?
yep. So you would, I mean, you're doing the right thing on 5412. You're actually checking if all the statuses are at in network change. That's a good check. Except if you probably add a lock over there, but so that you can make somebody wait,
Mm-hmm.
and then they can when their turn comes to check the state, and they see that not everything is in network change, maybe some of them are not, maybe some others are already getting updated, etc., they'll just bail out.
Yeah, totally makes sense. Okay. Mm, let me see. The access helper. Where is the? I'm missing the driver. Let's go to the driver first. So we have some code here to provide the capability to the scheduler. So by default, security service update support is false unless the each driver that implements the feature update this capability to true. So this is start to being provided to the scheduler, and these are the two driver interfaces that we are adding. Update share service security service, where we can provide network info, share instance rules, new security service, and if it's an update, the current one, or if it's just adding a new security service, this will be empty. And regarding um, the return that can be a dictionary with the updates, so this follows this rule. So for each share instance, we can have a list of access rules that need to be updated, and inside these each of these access rules, the driver will update. It will provide the attribute that he wants to update. So as an example, I just added the access key here, which may not be the case, but the main one is will be the state of the access rule. So I
What
hope,
happens if the driver raises an exception without this thing? Should also be there. You have that? Okay, cool. I think you do. uh,
if the driver raises exception, then we went turning that
right, all that massive number of state changes, so they
yeah,
they should probably have that in the doc, because as we know, driver authors are barely reading this share manager. They're just implementing it based on that doc string.
yes,
So that's probably helpful if you add it over there as to what is the implication of doing that.
yeah.
I
So
think you have it. I just probably missed it when you were scrolling.
for every exception that the driver raises here, we are catching here for any exception, and doing everything that it's to set the char server to status error and updating the affected resource. So everything is going to error since we don't know which is the current state of this char server.
Is there a possibility that for a given backend,
Hmm.
like for example NetApp, right? as a driver, you have support to do share server updates. But then when you create a new share server, you realize you can't update that any longer. um, I don't know. I mean, I'm just thinking out loud here. So basically thinking that, mm, yeah, of course my driver can handle this, but when I'm creating it on this kind of backend, I don't have um, a way to make this for this specific secure share server. Something that I realize when I'm creating the share server, is there going to be a possibility like that? Because when you declare something globally like that, the way you've done in shared slash driver, uh, up top in line 271, where you've said security service update support equals false, and you're figuring it out based on, oh, you're not doing the not implemented check, I guess.
Let me see if I understand your question. Uh, so the idea behind the capability is that the driver itself implements such logic for updating security service, but
Hmm.
we can only see if the update is really supported when we do the check.
Yeah, that covers my question, I think,
Yeah, because
because yeah.
uh, uh, as we as we start implementing the NetApp driver change, and we decided that domain will won't be accepted as a modification, for example.
Okay.
So
Hmm.
uh, if you are updating a Kerberos security service by another one, we won't be able to change the realm,
Okay.
because this do too much logic and too much modifications in the share server, that we need to drop every Kerberos configuration in the
Hmm.
SVM and create another one. He needs to register in another realm, and everything uh,
Yeah.
can we can drop all the clients that are actually using mounting shares.
Yeah, that
So
makes sense. No, my concern was more like, drivers are written more generically against to work against a class of backends, right? Let's say the Dell EMC backend that talks to a PowerMax storage system. Now there is 10 different versions of PowerMax storage system that this driver can possibly support.
okay,
And it realizes on one of these versions it can't do an update. So maybe then it probably cleverly sets that in the driver initialization or something, maybe. But even the best part is that if they implement the check properly, then this is avoided even at the check stage.
yeah,
So even if the driver claims that it supports it, when you're checking, you're going to make sure it's not. The only disadvantage is that you won't know upfront, um, but it's not as much of a user experience issue, I guess,
right, yeah, I think so.
if you document it or something properly. So at least the deployer knows exactly what are the limitations that are there for a given
Yeah,
driver. Okay.
yeah, that's the reason that we created this check after.
Mhm.
Was not in the plan during the time that we were writing the spec, but during the implementation, uh, we saw that this check was needed before starting updating and discovering that a lot of share servers uh, will fail with that. It's a bad experience. Okay. For the access rules, uh, we have a new function here that only updates uh, a list of shared instance IDs. So that the idea is that we are going to update the status of a bunch of shared instance, and this was on a method that was missing here, because and we don't have any operation that do that, and we included in here. And the last changes is the process driver rule update. So this is where the rules update returned by the update security service driver call. Uh, those updates will be handled here. So this is something that was already being done in other part of the codes, and but at this moment we are calling inside the share manager. So we turn this function to public, and I believe that inside the code this is the only place that actually call the process driver rule updates. Okay, um, so it works
The
in a
problem
similar
that you
way.
have with the access rule update is that that lock that you're using is looking for a share instance ID, and that I mean, over there you might have a lot of them.
You're saying about this lock?
Yeah,
Right. This is based on a single, for instance, ID, right?
yeah.
I see. Yeah.
Although I'm pretty sure there is a method that's already there.
Mm.
Uh, share instance IDs. Okay. Share instances status update. Is this DB method newly introduced?
This
Share
one?
instances DB update.
Don't remember, to be honest. API SQL. Okay. There's a possibility. Um, no, I
Look
don't think
like
so.
it.
No,
Okay.
we didn't add this one.
All right. So if you have handled all of the locking elsewhere with the help of status changes and all that, I don't know whether you really need a lock like this. Uh, the reason these DB methods are locked in the share access manager is when you're going through the access rule changes and new access rules come in, there is nothing preventing you from adding and removing access rules as the driver is processing access rule updates. And so those need to be synchronized in one way, in some way, when they're touching the database layer. So basically, these are reader writer locks, and so they pertain to a single share instance and the possibility that you might have access rules being added and deleted in a high concurrency. But when you're talking like all of these share instances, and you know that nothing could be happening at this time because you've created status locks elsewhere, I don't see why you might need this.
Yeah, makes sense. Um, we are we are already protecting the code through state changes that were made before.
Yeah,
And we can use this logic to avoid this lock.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay.
Otherwise, I mean, I guess the lock string is going to be so huge. If it were to be into the database, you might actually have an error because I think if you're using Redis or something, I guess we have a limit on how much a field can hold uh, as far as a lock string is
Hmm.
concerned.
Yeah.
And if you scroll up on that file, you'll see that that log string is pretty much substituting the share instance ID that's at the final argument of the method into the thing. I'm surprised it didn't give you an error. Oh well, because Python it's duck typing and it's dumping the whole list into the string.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Oh, or maybe not, right? It's not even, it's doing a none, I guess. So you're probably setting a lock that says locked access rule operation by share instance at share instance none.
none. Yeah. No, there is no treatment for none here.
Yeah. And that's not helpful because what's share instance none?
Yeah, you're right. Okay, I can fix that.
Awesome.
Thank you. Let me refresh to see what I what we are missing from the code. Um, there isn't too much to see in the common.
What had to change with the drivers?
Sorry.
What had to change with the drivers? All of the drivers? Oh, I see.
Where is it?
They I would say that's in the bottom right. There are some modifications in some
Ah,
files from drivers like test HB,
yeah.
3PR. It's
The,
basically unit tests that were like broken because they didn't have this flag as well. So that
Oh, okay.
that this.
I
it's
But
see. Okay, nothing in the driver code, just their unit tests were.
yeah,
Uh,
only their unit
okay.
tests.
yeah, because we are adding this. I opened the wrong file. It's in the driver here.
Yeah.
Okay, so we are adding this common
Yeah, you're adding
capability.
it to the common dict.
They
I
probably
see. Okay.
are receiving this dictionary and they are using to check something in the unit test,
Yeah,
and it
that's
was
exactly
failing.
Makes
this.
sense.
And some unit tests failed, so needed to modify this. Some
Yeah.
tests really rely on this common
Yeah,
dict.
makes sense. Thanks. I was concerned that we were updating some of the drivers, uh, but not the others. But that's
Implement
okay.
first row now.
Implementing it for them, that's pretty cool.
That's awesome.
Mm, So we have some changes in the scheduler in order to add the common capability, right? So there isn't too much code to include this common capability. And it is always start by the default by setting to false. And the part that we treat the boost capability that the driver sends to the scheduler.
Awesome.
Uh, exception, there is a share network exception, new exception. Okay, I don't think that we have anything else rather than unit tests here and the release note. There's no new thing in the RPC too. Uh, we are bumping the version and adding the two new RPCs, one for check, another for update.
Um, the database migration is pretty straightforward as well.
Yeah,
I don't know if you've gone through that because I've dropped from the call a bit,
yeah,
but
we went through the migration already.
awesome. And
Yeah,
the new command from Manila Manage as well, which is supposed to be pretty straightforward as well.
yes. So the idea is that a database migration will set every share server to have this new capability set it to false in the independent of the if the driver supports or not. And by adding these new uh, manage command, um, admin can manually change update this capability on the already deployed share servers. So what uh, we basically we are adding here is a possibility of uh, update a couple of share servers to have a specific capability to value. In this case, you can set the security service update capability to true or false. And this is something that is expected only that the admin uh, for an admin operation. So this is something that the admin will do for the share servers that he already has, and considering that these backend drivers the, they already support this capability. Okay, so we are adding share server commands. to 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 this manage operation, and I think it's pretty straightforward. I, I think that's it.
Yeah, it's great, guys. This is pretty cool. It's a lot going on, but very well organized and well written code. Thanks for taking us through it. I did note some of the comments, but maybe we should switch over to the questions in case we're missing something.
I think that we cover everything in the code, so we
Yeah,
can switch to the questions.
Yeah.
Okay,
I know
so
Vida, Victoria, and I have another meeting that just got started, but it's just between us, so we just decided we probably could push it a little bit. Um, but yeah, if there's something that we can discuss here, that'd be cool.
okay, there is a specific question that you want to focus. Uh,
Yeah, let's take it from the top. Yeah, so Kerberos, the reason I was thinking is, I mean, what I saw in your code is you can update Kerberos to Kerberos, but not Kerberos to Active Directory or something like that. So you should have already had Kerberos in your
when doing
usage.
update, yes, but you can also you still can add an Kerberos security service to a search to
Mhm.
a server that doesn't have any Kerberos configuration, and
Yeah, the
that,
reason I was thinking is how does that affect existing export locations, for instance? Does it affect them at all? Or is there going to be a situation where a shared driver might need to have the export locations updated because maybe the export path is now Kerberized, or maybe there's a new Kerberized path that needs to be coming in instead of the export path that was already given to the user.
okay, so the current driver interface does not provide a way of updating an export path.
Mhm.
Um, with the Manila and the NetApp driver, we do not expect to change the export path for Kerberos. So we still maintain the same export path, but what would change is uh, the security style of the export policy. So instead of using only outsys, it can be changed to Kerberos. But what can happen is that in order to do that, the user will need to mount again the share,
Oh,
because
interesting. But so is that disruptive? Like in the sense, the moment you change it on the back end, the export policy, does that affect the user's mounts as they are, or until they unmount and mount again, they can't take advantage of the coverized?
yeah,
Uh,
that's a good question. I don't remember this specific scenario, but what we are considering is that at this moment the code is not changing anything in the export policies for NFS. So
mhm.
the users that were mounting shares using outsys will continue to access
Yeah.
those shares. And in
Mhm.
order to change this security, so they need to deny the access and allow again. And by doing that, it will be updated and now start supporting Kerberos. So we won't
Oh,
affect,
so the existing rules are not going to be updated.
yeah, in the way that
Okay.
we are considering in the NetApp code. So we are not affecting those access rules that are already there,
Yeah.
but we will affect new access rules. So if any user wants to um, modify the access from specific share, he can deny the access and allow again.
No, that makes sense. But I was just thinking, have you tested this with the data path when it's connected? What is the behavior like? Is the is at any point the user going to get disconnected because of this change?
Um, we can check again, but I don't remember to see any problem with that. We are still doing a lot of tests on that. We are doing a lot of QAs on that. We have a lot of scenarios under testing right now.
Mhm.
but it it's something that what I can see. It's we provide a bug fix for Kerberos those days, and you can have the Kerberos client configuration in an SCVM. But you can still create export policies and do not use the Kerberos at all. So
Yeah,
they can live together. It's up to the driver that's creating the export policy to define the security that will be allowed when the user
makes
is
sense.
trying to mount a share. So what we do today is, if the Kerberos client is configured in the SVM, we only allow mounting share using Kerberos security. Uh, so this is something that can be flexible from my point of view in the driver, not in the driver, in the storage system.
Yeah, and that I think is the default even across the stuff. I mean, Cabros is. I mean, even if it's enabled, you can actually not need to take advantage of it. I think so. I mean, but you're having a vendor driver that can implement this. So if you have the checks and stuff, that's cool. And the next driver that comes along can always modify that driver interface if that's what they need to do. Um, yeah, and another thing I noticed is there are no user messages in the share manager when something goes wrong. Uh, Take advantage of the user messages feature as much as you can, convey any failure back to the user, because I mean, yeah, status changes can easily be acknowledged by the user, but they'd still wonder what happened,
Yeah,
right? Why did my status change? Because there's nothing else beyond this saying error.
yeah. We still cannot provide information about char servers, but we can
Yeah,
uh,
you can make
say that.
you can say while doing an update. Uh, I mean,
So
we weren't able to complete this update, so the shared status is set to error. Contact your administrator to fix this problem.
yeah,
All
makes
right.
sense.
I think we covered the synchronicity bit. We covered the default RBAC.
Yes.
And Carlos gave me answers on the fly. That's cool. Thanks, Carlos.
So
You're welcome.
we covered
Oh
that.
yeah, I think on line 38, the question I had about eager loading, I've already commented on the review. It looks like you're eager loading both sides, and one of them can be prevented. The point is, a share instance is already a very heavy table because it eager loads a bunch of things like share types, it eager loads its network, etc. It doesn't have to be the other way. Like, it's all right to make two round trips to the database within a database query. There's no need to eager load, from the share network to the share servers, for instance, or from the share network to the share groups, etc. Um, so wherever we're trying to load, if there is a one-way load, that's fine. If that is going to be like, most of our queries are on share instances. And so if that query eager loads, it's going to probably load half the database onto it. So try and see if we can avoid that. I will check the code further on this. Um,
Yeah, I
and
think that's
if you have to
really
make two separate queries to get some information, that's absolutely fine. But you're doing it, the few times that you're loading it, rather than, let's say, if I just say share network list, that same query that you're modifying is actually affected. Right.
yeah, makes sense. So we can take a look on this and get in a consensus for this issue because I think it's important.
Yeah.
Thinking on in this point of view, you're really loading like a whole bunch of things in the database and that could like hurt performance in a way. So that's something we should take a look at.
Yeah. Okay. I think I'm done with those, and I will follow up on reviews with that. But do the others have any questions?
Okay. So we are ready. We already cover everything in the code, and I think that all the questions so far. So, do you guys think that we still need to see the a demo happening, or
Oh, that's a
no?
good point.
I don't know if you guys still have time. You have another meetings and so on.
We certainly have another meeting that we have to jump to. So is it maybe have you made some askinemas or something that we can take a look at while we are reviewing the code? Or would you want us to actually view the demo? So is that a better experience? What do you think?
I'm not sure. There is no too much thing to show in the demo itself.
Okay, then I guess go for
It's
it.
very straightforward. Just an update command in the share servers guy has the updates. One thing that I forgot to mention, we also provide the dummy driver updates in the same core patch. Not sure if we should provide in a different change or if we can.
No, you're good. That's good. I mean, it's a very complicated driver. Thanks for handling it right there.
It's very helpful for testing.
Yeah,
Okay, so I think that's it.
that's good. We still definitely want to see the demo. So if you have some time to, I don't know, do you use this thing as Kinema?
That's a pretty nice tool. I've seen it.
Yeah,
It's pretty useful.
especially if it's a CLI demo, we can
Yeah.
just put it up there and share it with folks.
Okay,
Yes.
we can do that.
Yeah, for sure.
Awesome. Cool. Yeah, yours, all yours, Douglas.
Yeah. I don't have nothing. Do you have something to add, Carlos? Carlos was also working hard on the implementation of this feature. Something that you want to add?
No, I have nothing to add.
Okay, so we can finish this review meeting, and uh, anything else we can still continue to using the Etherpad to place questions, or we can also use the review to place comments in the codes, and we will continue to answer any questions, and uh, we will start working on these suggestions and fixing something and provide a pet site soon. Okay.
Great. Thank you.
Okay. So thank you for joining.
Thank
Thank
you.
you for staying so long. Uh,
No problem.
thank you again.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Douglas.
Thanks,
Thanks, everyone.
Bye bye.
Great
Bye.
stuff. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye bye.